Adam Hoge is in Hawaii, but fear not. We got a full jam-packed show here for you. Jack Sanborn is back. He's a Bear. Chris Emma joins the show. So does Zack Pearson. You ready? Let's go. What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns, brought to you by Old National Bank, where every play matters, whether it's on the field or in your financial life. The best teams win by delivering excellence at every level. Old National Bank, where relationships and results matter. Member FDIC. Welcome in. Adam Hoge is not here, but this is going to be a good, fun show. I am Adam Jahns, your host, the better part of the Hoge Jahns podcast. Today's guests, we got a Bears Beat Roundtable. We haven't done one of these in a long time, fellas. We have Zack Pearson from Bear Report, Chris Emma from, I almost said 670 the score. Still get that a lot, don't you, Chris?
A little bit, yeah.
104.3 the score.
There it is. You nailed it.
There it is from WBBM News Radio. You know the deal, everybody. Go to allchgo.com. Become a diehard. Use code Johns to get all my writing, to get Hoge's 10 Bears things, some stuff from Pat Norton, our Blackhawks coverage, our Bulls coverage. It's all there for you. Fellas, thanks for joining the show. What's going on?
No, thanks for having us, man. I'm just excited to talk some football. It's been kind of a lull here the past couple days.
Yeah.
I thought Hoge was taking a sick day to watch his Badgers have their annual 12-5 upset first round exit, but Hawaii sounds pretty nice right now, so hope he can get it out there.
You had that one ready to go.
No, never.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yes, the NCAA tournament begins today. I don't know if you're like me, guys, but I'm always like scrambling towards the end. Like bracket goes in late at night. I'm fixing things this morning. The final pools, all the text message, the Venmos are being sent out. Always scrambling at the end.
Same exact way.
Never ready.
This will shock you. I'm late on the Venmos. I got to get on that one.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, we're not here to talk about basketball, though I'm sure our whole weekend will be filled with it. The Bears offseason has been a busy one. So I think we're going to step back and kind of just reset on things. I've said my piece 1,000 times. Hoge's talked about the Bears. We know you guys talk about the Bears for a living too. So it'll be good to get some different opinions here on Hoge Jahns. So I gave you guys a bunch of different topics to think about. But, guys, we have some breaking news first. Jack Sanborn is a Chicago Bear. So this is going to be our first segment. So this is brought to you by Xfinity. This is the big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. Jack Sanborn is back. He's a Chicago Bear. What do you guys think?
I mean, I like the idea of Ryan Poles going to Ben Johnson and selling him on somebody who was one of his success stories, a guy who was an undrafted free agent out of Wisconsin, came through rookie minicamp all the way on to earn a role with this team, first as a special teamer, then ultimately getting some starting reps. And this is a player who obviously fits what they're looking for, but this is the GM selling the coaching staff, where the other way around has been mostly the case of the coaching staff selling the GM on guys. We know this is Ben Johnson's roster and this is Dennis Allen's defense, but this is a Ryan Poles player that they believe in as well. And it's a fun reunion after a year away in Dallas with Matt Eberflus and with that team, the Cowboys, to have Jack Sanborn back in the fold. That one caught my attention. I was not on my radar going into this, but it's nice to have that guy back in the fold.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too, because, he leaves the 1 year to go to Dallas with, Matt Eberflus, and kind of made sense for him, someone he was familiar with, someone that was his head coach here for a couple of years. But Yeah, I like it. I think depth is important. You don't know how healthy Noah Sewell is going to be when this offseason begins. You don't know how healthy TJ Edwards is going to be when the offseason begins. So, yeah, I think getting a familiar face in here, doesn't hurt. And now we get to see what he can do in Dennis Allen's defense.
Do you think he regrets that 1 year in Dallas? Because I'm pretty sure the Bears had interest in retaining him last year, but that was his starting opportunity with the Cowboys. And, of course, Flus was there.
Yeah, well, hometown kid too. So I imagine leaving Chicago was pretty tough. He got hurt last year in the middle of the year. That defense was a mess for Dallas. So yeah, maybe there is some regret because it was a week after free agency started that he signed with the Bears. So it's kind of quick.
I'll never blame somebody for betting on themselves, and especially somebody like that who's been a lotto ticket his entire young career, going from undrafted free agent to the point where teams are coveting you. Multiple teams are coveting you. So it didn't work out as he wanted. That's the NFL. And so be it. You go back home to Chicago. You go to a team where you have familiarity, where you know what they're doing. Now he's got to adjust to an entirely new defense now from where he left off. But I no doubt in my mind he's going to be an excellent fit for what they want to do, and it's a different linebacking group now. I mean, the last few years has been the law firm of Edmonds and Edwards, and now Tremaine Edmonds is a New York Giant, and TJ Edwards has a road back to recovery. So I'm curious to see how they form this now with Sanborn joining them, the likes of Devin Bush, who I think was an excellent pickup, and DeMarco Jackson, who you could argue is one of their best linebackers at times last season. I like what they have. And you're going to hear me say this a bunch as we go through our discussion, referencing what Ryan Poles said, the idea of the best combination of players. And that was him referring to the fact that back at the combine when he said this first, that this is going to be a tight off season of making difficult decisions. And linebackers a spot where you had to take a step back in terms of the finances, but you hope you've got enough production or even more production than you had before.
All right, quickly. James Lynch is also a Chicago Bear. 4th-round pick from a few years ago. Another defensive tackle. So that's 3 defensive tackles signed in free agency. None of them have major deals, but I think it's noteworthy nonetheless, especially in a position of need for the Bears. Like, what do you think? Like, if you had a big takeaway for what this means for the draft, what do you think that could be?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, going into the free agency and in the draft process, I thought, Caleb Banks is a guy that Caden McDonald is a guy that, the Bears could target at 25. And we obviously know what happened with Banks. I still think defensive tackles on the board. I still go back to like Gervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett. Those guys have to show up this year and make plays. You're going to rely on those 2 guys, but it's never a bad thing to have depth. Like I said, you get 3 new defensive tackles. None of them are, all pro level that are going to come in and I think, really impact the defense. So maybe finding a defensive tackle, day 2, day 3 isn't off the table by any means, and just kind of keep adding bodies there. Cause we've seen, look how many times you've seen an injury impact and you got to have a rotation there.
What I think about James Lynch is that his middle name is Husker. Nebraska somehow failed to recruit him in during a time where could have desperately used some NFL talent. James Husker Lynch, his father Tim went to Nebraska. What a middle name. I like the fact that they're trying to upgrade this defensive line, talking about the Bears now, not Nebraska here. Like, they needed to make this move, and I asked Ryan Poles at the combine, like, do you need to overhaul this defensive line the way you did the offensive line? And he kind of alluded to the idea that they like what they have coming back, but they also have added some competition in there. Like, they haven't overhauled it with 3 new starters like they did last year with Dahlman, Tooney, and Jackson, but they've added some new blood to the mix and some guys with some upside to compete with the likes of Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter and see what you can do to upgrade that unit. So I like the fact that there's a little bit of urgency there. I wonder if you had – because Ryan Poles, when I asked him that question, did point to the cap space, like directly said, I don't know if we can pull that off. I wonder if they did have right cap space, if they would be upgrading this entirely with 3 new starters. But I like the fact that they're understanding that they need some new bodies in there and some new opportunities. So I think it's been a productive offseason on the defensive line. I still want to see them get some edge rushers now. I don't love where that position is. I think we're going to get to that later, but I've got some concerns there still.
All right, there you have it. That was the big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. This is a live show for those watching on YouTube right now. So if you have any questions or comments or whatnot for Zach or Chris, put them in, and we'll get to them down the road here. So thank you for watching, as always. As I kind of detailed earlier, the plan for this show is, well, I kind of texted it to you boys last night. 5 topics. We're going to get some NFL draft talk here at the back end of the show. At this point, I don't think we could have enough draft talk. I love it. I have a few players that I'm really starting to fall in love with in this draft. But let's wrap up this offseason plan. I know some moves are still being made. Like Chris said, the Bears probably need some pass rush help going into the draft. We'll see if that can be done. I got to move some money around. So I think that's something on the Bears to-do list coming up here soon. But let's go through these moves, the additions. This is the first question I had for you guys. So number 1, the Bears' best off-season addition is whom?
I like the linebacker Devin Bush from Cleveland, a former first-round pick out of Michigan. And it goes with the theme that we heard Ryan Poles say. We've heard, Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen say, speed. Like looking back last year, Tremaine Edmonds had a heck of a season last year, got hurt. But how many times did we see Detroit line up Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs on them, or Green Bay kind of expose that, Minnesota expose that? So, yeah, I think getting faster at the linebacker position was really important. He's pretty good in pass coverage from what I've seen. He made some plays last year. I think he had, 3 interceptions for touchdowns, or 2 that were taken back for touchdowns. That's going to be hard to replicate, but, that playmaking ability is there, and I think he's kind of coming in with a lot more confidence. I mean, we heard him in that press conference just last week. So, yeah, I really like the Devin Bush signing. I think they had to get faster at that second level there with the linebackers.
Chris?
Yeah, for me, it's Kobe Bryant. And I commend Ryan Poles for making a difficult decision there, because I thought they would do everything they can to get Kevin Byard back. But in this job, and especially against the cap, you got to make some difficult decisions. Kevin Byard is 32 years old, and you're paying in free agency for future performance, not past performance. And it's difficult as that is with a leader and a guy you absolutely loved in that locker room. You got a guy now with Kobe Bryant who's 26 years old, coming off a key part in a Super Bowl championship with 4 interceptions. A guy with great athleticism, terrific speed, who can play up and down in your defense, who can really enhance your entire defensive identity. You don't have to look too far to see what he can do. He brought so much of that Seattle defense. He's going to bring a lot to the Bears defense. And I think that us as beat reporters would love to see Kevin Byard back. That's a stand-up guy, a pro's pro. He's everything you want in that locker room. But, man, Kobe Bryant, you're talking about a guy who's going to be here for many years to come if everything goes right. I love that deal. I love that pickup.
I'm really buying the idea that he's still learning the position too. Only 2 years at safety with Seattle. I like that he's from Seattle as well. Both of these players. I like that Devin Bush is from Pittsburgh. Those are 2 organizations that know a few things about defensive football. And I know they're here for a lot of different reasons. The business of football is what it is, but I like that they're from teams that know a few things about drafting and developing defensive talent. And I know they're leaving, but I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, it's important, and athleticism too stands out for both of them. I agree with Chris. I really like the Kobe Bryant signing. I believe he was a key part in Seattle, and like you said, he was just learning the position, played DB in college, and a little bit, with the Seahawks. So versatility stands out to me. But yeah, I mean, getting players from teams that draft well year after year on defense and build their defense well is important.
He took off at that safety position. He was a totally new man there. And this was a guy who was a terrific college corner and played that at a high level, but such a natural fit at safety. 7 interceptions in the last 2 seasons since making that switch. And you asked that question, Johns. I love that question. I love the answer even more. He sees himself as an ascending player in that position. And when you're going through free agency, and especially these top dollar guys like Kobe Bryant, you want to get somebody, again, it's future performance, not past performance. And he's 26. This is an ascending player still who's coming into his own. And he's somebody who can really enhance the identity of what Dennis Allen wants to do with his defense. So it just makes so much sense for the Bears. I love this fit.
So Hoge kind of disagrees with my assessment of the Garrett Bradbury move. I'm on record saying I think it's the best move that Ryan Poles has made this offseason. Now, hear me out, everybody, if you haven't heard this before. Like, that requires some context. Your Pro Bowl center surprisingly retires on you weeks before free agency. You appreciate the timing of it, but at the same time, he's one of your best players on your roster. So to pivot to Garrett Bradbury for a day 3 pick, to find a starter with his experience, not only like within the division, but with a young quarterback, working with older quarterbacks, a scheme fit, I think that's, again, his best move. Now, I like the Devin Bush signing. I like the Kobe Bryant signing. I could get on board with their speed improving the defense, but addressing center became so important after the Drew Dalman move. Like, what he did to get Garrett Bradbury in, I'll say it again. I think it's Ryan Poles' best move this offseason.
The most important thing they were looking for at that position was somebody who's essentially more or less a caddy for Caleb Williams, who can help him through pre-snap with the calls and getting everything set at the line. And look, you don't have to look too far to see what Gary Bradbury brought to the table for Drake May. Drake May was an MVP candidate, if not a favorite for most of the season, in large part because of Garrett Bradbury, the same way Caleb Williams took off last season in large part because of Drew Dalman. And ideally, in year 4, Caleb Williams doesn't have to lean on his center as much, but he still is a young player. Last year was year 1 in Ben Johnson's offense, was a start-over season for him. And you saw Caleb Williams become a young budding quarterback who looks like he's a franchise arm in the making here. Year 3 is the prove-it year, and you still want to take that off his plate. That's where Garrett Bradbury comes in. And I know he had some tough moments last season. That's a guy who's played at a high level for a lot of his career, but had some tough moments. I think playing next to Joe Thuney is going to help him out a great deal, as it would help out anybody and make you better. Same with playing alongside Jonah Jackson. Playing in this system is going to enhance Garrett Bradbury as an individual player. But Garrett Bradbury as an ally and somebody alongside Caleb Williams is going to be instrumental in year 3. That's what they coveted, to the point where they didn't even want to wait to the open market hit that next week and see out different options. And they were evaluating options. You pointed it out, Johns, that Drew Dalman retired a week before the offseason began in earnest, which gave the Bears some time. The second they learned of that, they were working the backdoor channels and seeing what was out there and kind of getting a sense of a market that they weren't ready to explore. I think they did really well with Garrett Bradbury. Now, it's twofold. I think Garrett Bradbury is a one and done. He's in the last year of his contract. I see them drafting his center, and that guy who becomes your center of the future and is that guy for Caleb Williams in year 4 and beyond, a developmental player who can learn from Garrett Bradbury, learn from Joe Thuney and all these players. So they have a plan in place, and I like that they adapted so quickly after Drew Dalman's retirement, and they did really well with this.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of fell in love with the Tyler Linderbaum and the Baez and those two guys, and they signed elsewhere, and you just couldn't afford that. I mean, you'd have to push a lot of money down the line, restructure a lot of contracts, and the Bears didn't want to do that. I agree with Chris. I think the key thing is when he was in New England, he played alongside Will Campbell, who really struggled, another rookie on that left side as well who really struggled. We saw in the Super Bowl what happened. That whole line was getting blown up. But that's not all Bradbury. They had a lot of guys that were just couldn't block anyone. I think playing alongside Jonah Jackson, playing alongside Joe Thuney, that's going to be really important. And it's probably, like Chris said, a 1-year guy who comes in and he's familiar with, a veteran quarterback. He's familiar with a young quarterback. So he kind of brings that experience as well. And then, you draft someone, you have someone, ready to go. Maybe Luke Newman gets a shot somewhere on the line as well in terms of his development. But yeah, I liked the move. It didn't cost a whole lot. I think you get a guy that could come in and be a replaceable center. Is he going to play at a Drew Dalman level? Probably not. I don't think he'll be a all pro or pro bowler, but he'll be good enough alongside those guys where you can make it work.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that he's a better player playing next to Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson and having Ben Johnson as his coach. All right, so the second question I had for you, the second superlative, did I say that right? I think so. Number 2, the most underrated offseason addition for the Bears has been?
I'm going to be a surprising one here. I think it's Braxton Jones coming back. Just because you look, man,
I like it.
That left tackle spot is still a need for the Bears. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, watching him last year in training camp in the preseason, the first couple games, he wasn't 100%. I think in a way he almost rushed back because he knew like there was a left tackle competition. I got to get out there. I got to try and win the job. He just didn't look healthy to me all year. And, is he going to come out and play at an all-pro level? I don't think so. But I think it's a guy that you're familiar with that, you can put in this competition. You know what you got. And it's a win-win, I think, for him, too. He's got a chance to go out and get a bigger deal, whether it be Chicago or somewhere else next year. So I like the Braxton move a lot.
For me, it's the first guy we learned about after 11 a.m. last Monday hit and the open negotiation window began, and that was Neville Gallimore. And look, I think when fans expect that first signing, they want the big splash. They want somebody for a mega contract. And when it's not a mega contract, fans say, oh, gosh, here come the cheap Bears, this and that. This is a guy they identified as an excellent fit for Dennis Allen's defense to the point where they wanted to get that done right away, and they did. He's coming off 3.5 sacks last season with the Colts, and this is a guy who plays with a motor. This is a guy who's going to do so much for your defensive front. A run defense that struggled for so much last season and let guys get to that second level easily. Neville Gallimore is not going to let that happen anymore. That's what he's brought in there to do. He can bull rush right through the middle and get to that quarterback, as he did, again, 3.5 sacks last season. Got pressures, got home to the quarterback. This is a guy who changes a lot of your defensive front. And we mentioned it. They've been aggressive in finding some upside for that. It's not the sexy, splashy names to that defensive line, but it's guys that they see fitting Dennis Allen's style of play and enhancing that group considerably. And you didn't have to do too much to upgrade to the defensive line after the last few seasons. I think Neville Gallimore is going to be somebody that does that plenty. And this is a maybe lazy comp, but I think back to several years back when the Bears brought in Akeem Hicks in the same light of a player of didn't have the high ceiling that everybody thought he would initially, and he maxed it out. He did everything he could, earn that second contract. And it wasn't the sexy signing at the time, but that was somebody who transformed this defense. If Neville Gallimore becomes anywhere near an Akeem Hicks level player for this defense, you feel really damn good.
I think best case scenario for the Bears, that sounds actually maybe very optimistic, Chris, but like if Kentavious Street or James Lynch or Neville Gallimore, like let's give a number. If they combine for 6.5 sacks, 5.5 sacks, is that a success? Like, is that enough? Now, James Lynch isn't he's here to help the run defense, I think, as a nose tackle. But Gallimore and Street, if they combine for 5 sacks, is that a win for the Bears this offseason?
I think so. And these guys were more prioritized for the run defense than the pass rush in my mind. And I think the other thing to consider, too, is that if those guys are getting pressure, then Montez Sweat's getting pressure. And Austin Booker's having a breakthrough third season, the way that we saw some marks there at the end of his second year. And I think this entire thing starts working hand in hand the way that you wanted it to. And there's a lot of pressure on Montez Sweat. He had 10 sacks. He had a good but not great season. And a lot of that comes on the highest paid player on the team, who's still Sweat. But I look to the rest of the defensive line and say, where's the help for him? Why is he not getting home? Because there's so much pressure on attention on him from these opposing offensive lines. You're able to play some complementary pass rushing now. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago with CHGO with sitting in with you, Johns, where the last 2 Super Bowl champions, neither of them had double-digit sack artists. They didn't have somebody who's getting home consistently. They had a wealth of guys who can stack 5, 6, 7, 8 sacks. And you're able to rotate deep into a game where some offensive lines are getting tired and your defense is still fresh because you're rotating guys in. This is what I see the Bears trying to do, is model themselves after the Seahawks and the Eagles of the last 2 years, where you've got depth on the defensive line. You're able to rotate guys in and out. You're able to form your best 4 and get after the quarterback that way. And Ryan Poles alluded to that a couple years ago, talking about the Eagles, and I'm sure the same would hold up with the Seahawks. Like, this is what they want. It's not just having that Max Crosby off the edge who's getting 15, 16 sacks. They want to spread the wealth and do it against the cap appropriately. So I see them doing this thing right, and I think Ryan Poles is optimistic about where this production is going to come.
So my pick for the most underrated offseason edition is Cam Lewis, defensive back from Buffalo. Spent his past 7 years there. Played at University of Buffalo or University at Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's what it is, right? University at Buffalo.
Yeah, UB.
Something different. Yeah. Cool story. I just like that he could do a little bit of everything in the secondary, for a secondary that has dealt with so many injuries the past few years. Are the Bears going to be better defensively with a healthy Jalen Johnson? Absolutely. Same thing applies for Kyler Gordon. But if something bad happens again, you have Cam Lewis, who can play just about everywhere. I don't think he's your starting safety. I think that's going to come through the draft. We'll get to that a little bit later. But adding a player who could do so much in so many different positions, I think adds intense value to your secondary.
Special teams, too. I mean, the special teams is important as well. And I believe he was a standout with the Bills. So, yeah, I agree. I think that's a good pickup as well.
Yeah, I'll throw Khalif Raymond in there as well. I think he's somebody who can make an impact, who knows Ben Johnson's offense well, who knows Antoine Randall well. A reliable target who can work alongside two ascending players in Rome Odunze and Luther Burden.
All right, I have 3 more questions for you, but first we need... Whether it's on the field or in your financial life, the best teams win by delivering excellence at every level. At Old National Bank, we believe every play matters. From everyday checking to long-term planning and commercial banking, our team is here to build momentum and help you move the ball forward, just like Ben Johnson's offense every week. It all starts with a plan tailored for you by professionals you can trust. From simple tasks to bigger financial moments, you can count on us to coordinate your needs with steady, knowledgeable guidance that brings clarity and confidence to each step. It's a partnership designed to help you feel supported, not just today, but well into the future. So whether you're celebrating a win, rebuilding after a tough loss, or gearing up for whatever comes next, we've got your back with tools, insights, and an expert crew that's always in your corner. Old National Bank, member FDIC, where relationships and results matter. And if you heard about Goldbelly, it's this amazing website where you can get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all over the U.S. And it's perfect for game day, any day, really, Valentine's Day, or anything else you have going on. If you go to their website and you just search Chicago, I'm telling you, you got Gibson's Steaks, you have Pequod's Pizza. It's up there with Lou Malnati's. It's up there with Giordano's. You have a whole list of options from Vienna Beef. So if you're a Chicagoan who lives elsewhere, I'm telling you, a Bears fan anywhere, I'm telling you, this is your website for the most iconic Chicago foods. They come straight to your door. If you're a Chicagoan, I'm telling you, check out those buffalo wings from Anchor Bar. So whether you're looking to turn game day into an unforgettable experience with friends, or you want to impress loved ones on Valentine's Day, go to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code BEARS. Goldbelly.com, code BEARS for 20% off your first order. I'm feeling hungry now. I could go for some pizza, maybe some Pequods, a little Italian beef.
You're selling me on wings there for March Madness weekend.
Yeah. There you go.
Upsell.
Goldbelly.com. Check it out. Use our code. All right, let's change this conversation a little bit. Third question. The Bears will miss who?
I'll go with the leadership of Kevin Byard, and I think that's something that you can't understand. And I say this having mentioned Kobe Bryant is my favorite pickup thus far. I don't know if there was a world in which they could have played side by side, but don't underestimate the importance of Kevin Byard on that team's breakthrough last season and the leadership that he brought, along with some of these other guys, Tremaine Edmonds, who wore a C on his chest. And there's going to be a leadership void that they've got to pay attention to. And Kevin Byard is somebody who made such a great deal of difference for everybody on that team and everybody on that defense. They played off him. They played better because of him. He was a multiplier for that team. You could trust what the back end of your defense was going to hold because of him. And I think they're going to replace him well in terms of what Kobe Bryant brings to the table. They're going to miss his presence a ton. And I think that is a significant loss. I'll offer a solution with it too. I might be getting ahead of one of our topics, but you got a guy out there in Cam Jordan who's still a free agent who could fit a need on the defensive line and who's worn a C on his chest for many years down in New Orleans. And that's a natural fit. You've got a leadership void now, having lost two guys who are really important to you on your defense. But the loss of Kevin Byard's leadership is going to be critical, and they got to find a way to replace that.
I think the leadership overall of the guys they lost, just in terms of the locker room presence and leadership on the field, is important. I know I said Tremaine struggled in pass coverage, but the leadership from him, DJ Moore, you saw how many wide receivers had tributes to him on their Instagram, and Caleb as well. The leadership with Byard. I think Drew Dahlman is probably the biggest loss, just because you had last offseason, you had the need at center and left tackle, and it felt like you were going to finally, fill that with Drew Dahlman. Gets the quick deal, plays at a Pro Bowl level. I think Garrett Bradbury will be fine, but yeah, Drew Dahlman, to have that consistency on the offensive line with the 4 to 5 guys that they had last season, definitely going to miss him.
I like this suggestion from Jeremy in the chat. He says Bieniemy.
Yeah.
We were thinking players, and I had Kevin Byard in mind, Ed Tremaine Edmonds in mind. I like the story of Nashawn Wright. Wasn't the best in coverage, but the takeaways are what they are. But I think Jeremy might be onto something. And let's add to the conversation Declan Doyle. Now, you still have Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
And this is his offense. This is his vision. I think he'll help Garrett Bradbury. I think he'll help find leaders. But at the same time, I think if Ben Johnson was on this podcast, he'd probably tell you he's going to miss Eric Bieniemy and Declan Doyle too.
Yeah, I think we're going to miss Bieniemy in his training camp yelling at the players during the drills as well, because that was pretty entertaining. But yeah, DeAndre Swift had arguably the best year of his career under Bieniemy. You saw Kyle Monangai come in right away and make an impact as the season went on. That's a good one. And I think I'd agree. Ben Johnson would miss them both.
Yeah, that's a simple trust Ben Johnson stamp of approval on Eric Studesville, and hoping that he's able to give you to that running that group what Eric Bieniemy did, because he maximized every bit of that, from a player in DeAndre Swift who you wanted to cast off if it made sense financially, to a 7th round pick in Calvin Unguy who looked every bit what you hoped he'd be and then some. Like, that's a credit to the running backs coach, and I think they've got a really good one coming in now. But Eric Bieniemy did a hell of a job with that group.
So my thought on the leadership is, this stood out to me over the past couple seasons. Like, the Bears free agents can't always be their captains. Eventually, some of their homegrown players have to step up and take over this team. Of course, that starts with Caleb Williams, but that's got to spread elsewhere. Roman Unze, I'm trying to think, Darnell Wright.
All right.
Maybe the next linebacker they take. We'll get to that later. But you know what I'm talking about? Like, their own homegrown talent has to take over. Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, defense. I know Jalen Johnson was drafted by the previous regime, but he demands an immense amount of respect in that locker room. So, time for some other players who aren't free agents to take over this team.
It's a great point, Johnson. I'm totally with you. You have concerns about the leadership when you're 2 years off a season that just went to hell on you, and you had 8 captains but no leaders, and coming off a breakthrough season where everything went your way and the leadership shined through. It's a delicate balance. And I want to believe they're in a great place still coming off this season, but we've heard Ben Johnson talk about how this is a whole new team in 26, and I think that includes the leadership group. So you want to see guys ascend. Caleb Williams is absolutely a leader for this team, and he's the leader for this team, but you want to see other guys on each side of the football step up into those roles, and whether it's vocal leaders by example. Like Joe Thuney is the shining example as well, the guy who every other guy in that locker room should be looking to. And you want a bunch of guys who are built that way as well. And I'm curious to see how that shakes out. But again, I don't say that lightly. They've lost some really important talents and key players for this team. Kevin Byard's leadership is something that stands out to me, and I think they're going to really miss.
Are you guys surprised? Like he didn't come back? I know this may answer a future question, but like, part of me is still, all right, you want me to save it for later? I'll save it for later. Okay, I'll save it for later. Okay. All right. 4th question. If I'm general manager Ryan Poles, I'm concerned about what?
Pass rush from the edge. Outside of Montez Sweat, Austin Booker showed flashes. But yeah, they need more from that edge rusher position. They got to get more pressure on the quarterback. It's the easiest way to essentially have a really good defense is by getting to the quarterback and creating havoc. I mean, we saw what the Seattle Seahawks did. And, Emma pointed out, you got guys from all over the line creating pressure. So, Yeah, obviously, there was the big fish out there with Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. They didn't go that route. So yeah, we'll have to look at the draft, but I'm a little worried about the edge rusher position going into the draft. I know it's a deep class. You probably get someone at 25, maybe get someone in the second round. But is it a long-term solution? Pro Bowl guy, a guy that's going to be here for a long time, that's going to give you 10, 12 sacks a year. I don't know.
Yeah, you stole mine. I think you probably stole everybody's with the idea of pass rush. And that's something where you got to continue to improve that and add options. And I think they will. That's far from a finished product at this point. But my concern is also a cornerback, and that's CB, not QB. First time forever. We're not talking about QB being the problem here. It's a beautiful thing, but man, that secondary, I'm curious how that's going to shake out. I mean, I want to believe that Jalen Johnson's going to come back to being Pro Bowl Jalen Johnson, healthy and full go, but that was a tough year for him health-wise, coming off core muscle surgery, just not being that same player. He didn't have that step he was missing, and I want to believe just medically he gets that back and he's fine. But that only solves one problem too. Deshaun Wright shined a bright light over the darkness at that position where Tyreek Stevenson continued to struggle, continued to fall out of favor with his coaching staff. And basically, those are your options right now. Deshaun Wright signed for a cheap deal with the Jets, and he's going to be an impact player there. Fine, I guess, with him walking away, but I want to see what the solutions hold to that position. And I want to see them address that in the draft. They got to get some young talent in the pipeline in that position right now, because I don't feel great about the corner spot. I feel much better about safety now with Kobe Wright coming in. I love what they did at linebacker. The defensive line is shaping up a little bit. I'm curious about the corner position.
It's a premium position too, and one that Ryan Poles has invested in a few times before. Stevenson, final year of his contract. Terrell Smith, final year of his contract. You could be high on Zay Frazier all you want. I need to see him in training camp first before we start, I don't know, writing stories about his promise and potential. So there's I understand some reasons of optimism with those three players, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears address cornerback early on, day 2, day 3 in this draft.
Yeah, we're going to need to add some depth.
I feel a lot better about it if they drafted early. Then you start talking about, here's our long-term solution, here's what this is going to look like. But right now, it doesn't feel great.
So if I'm Ryan Poles, I'll go back to your point, Zach. Like, what I'm concerned about the most if I'm projecting forward is making sure like that my board is clouded correctly, where I'm not really pressing my need for pass rusher. Everybody knows the Bears need a pass rusher, but the top 4 or 5 will be off the board by the time the 25th pick comes up. So what are you looking at 57 and 60? Like, do you have a large enough cluster of players there in your grading pool that would maybe require some movement? Like, to me, that's a concern, because there's a gap between the top 5 guys in the second tier. Don't overdraft a pass rusher is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys there, and I think it was Daniel Jeremiah or someone mentioned that this is not a strong, there's not a Micah Parsons and there's not a TJ Watt or anything. There's good depth guys, but at this stage, I think to solve the pass rush, you need a standout star pass rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. Now, how you get that, I don't know. Those don't become available in free agency often or via trade like they did this year. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting decision to make at 25. Do you go with one of the top edge guys? Do you go with a safety? Do you go with a tackle? I don't know. Getting to the second round, there's guys that have potential. Zion Young is a name that keeps coming up. The Illinois kid, I'm blanking on his name. Gabi, is it Lucas or Yakis or? I'm
pulling up the database right now.
But yeah, are those guys long-term solutions, or are they more in terms of the Austin Booker type where you're just banking on potential in a day 2 steal?
I think part of this equation too is like they're really bullish on Austin Booker. I think everything they saw late in the season was the kind of guy they thought he was going to be. Ryan Poles kept pointing to the fact that he was hurt through the first part of the season, and they see this guy really becoming like a top-end pass rusher, somebody who's coming into his own, because they were clearly high on him in the draft. They traded up to get him. They had high grades on him. They had day 2 grades on him, taking him day 3. And The injuries were the setback. They knew he was a developmental prospect, and clearly they feel really good about him. Like anytime you ask Ryan Poles about what do you need at pass rush, how do you upgrade this position, he points to Austin Booker pretty quickly. So this is somebody they see playing a key role for this defense, and they see as a budding player in this league.
Gabe Akis.
Akis, there we go. Totally butchered it.
He is the Illinois defensive end in Fran Duffy's draft guide. If you're a diehard, you can see it. It's probably, honestly, it's the best deal we have going. It's completely available if you subscribe. Use code Johns. He is the 92nd ranked player on Fran Duffy's draft guide, Fran Duffy's draft guide for All City. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do at pass rusher, because I don't think they're done in free agency adding there. It's just curious to me that they've added 3 defensive tackles, but really no edge help when everyone knows they need better sack production. Something to think about. All right, number 5, 5th and final question. I'm surprised that the Bears didn't what?
We talked about it earlier. I didn't want to say it then. I'll say it now. I'm surprised that they let their secondary go with this kind of cap maneuvering. The fact that Deshaun Wright, Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, if you want to throw in Jonathan Owens and C.J. Gardner-Johnson in there too, sure. All 5 of those guys, but your 3 top starters left for 1-year deals under $10 million. When you're sitting here talking about the idea of, and the reality, frankly, that you're up against the cap and you need the best combination of players and you need to upgrade this position and that position, I'm surprised that not one of those guys was back. I thought one of the safeties would be back for sure in some form. The market fell to Ryan Poles exactly where he would have wanted to be for those guys. And Byard signed he reached his deal on Thursday or like a day into this. Brisker didn't sign to the end of the week. Like all these guys were readily available. It's interesting to me when you acknowledge the cap realities. It also speaks to how they really felt. And Ryan Poles, I love when he speaks because he's not somebody who minces words too often. You can get a sense of how he's really feeling about things. And he said at the combine, like, we need to upgrade our speed, and in particular in the secondary. And he put into the playoffs where they were struggling at times and they couldn't keep up with some of these high octane top flight offenses. And they went out there and addressed this offseason as such. They went out there and changed their makeup defensively. And they let some guys go who weren't top flight speed guys, who struggled at times in coverage. And I think it's notable. It was surprising. I didn't think they were going to, with this kind of cap situation, really attack free agency to neglect these guys, so to speak. But it's notable to me, and I'm a little taken aback by it. But I see where Ryan Poles is coming from here.
Yeah, I would say that too, just because of what we heard from, more of the Kevin Byard side, how he wanted to be back. It kind of felt like Jaquan knew he was going to be on his way out and he wasn't coming back. I was surprised that Nahshon Wright got that cheap of a deal. Now he did struggle, at times, but the Jets are essentially banking on him, producing those takeaways again. So I see why the Bears did it though. As the year went on, they were able to kind of mask, how bad the defense actually was towards the end of the year, in terms of that secondary. So seeing them go on, and it's not all Ben Johnson players, not Dennis Allen players. These are guys that were the previous regime. So, yeah, it does make sense that they moved on for a lot of them, but I'm more surprised that the Bears probably weren't interested in terms of those cheaper deals, as Chris kind of mentioned.
Yeah, the way I would phrase this is I'm surprised that the Bears didn't appeal more to Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
I understand the Mike Vrabel connection. And really, that's it. I understand that they're a Super Bowl contender, but if the money was the same, I thought maybe he would be more interested in staying in Chicago, considering everything he just said and everything that was just built under Ben Johnson. Like, to me, I found that surprising, and I say that while fully acknowledging that he loves Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, and the young quarterback aspect in New England too it's a similar situation as to here. And yeah, I just think just listening to Byard and how he talked about wanting to be here and how much he liked it here, and you just felt like it was going to get done, and you'd have that veteran safety with a guy like Kobe Bryant. It was just, that was interesting.
The more I thought about it. Let me hear your thoughts on this, fellas. Like, I'm not surprised that the Bears didn't hesitate on this overhaul of the defense. Like, if I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, like that secondary gave up a lot of yardage. The pass rush wasn't very good. Like, I'm not surprised there's been an injection of a lot of new players, 3 defensive tackles, 1 DB, 2 DBs, a linebacker. None of that really surprises me given how porous they were and how takeaways kind of saved them throughout the season.
Yeah, and I appreciate that they acknowledge that they saw some luck in there versus just pure production. Like, again, I said it earlier, but you're paying for future performance, not past performance. And you can't sit there and say, well, we got 7 interceptions from this guy, 5 from this guy. We're going to get that again. You got to expect regression. You got to seek ways to improve off that. Like, Kobe Bryant's a dynamic playmaker who's going to transform this entire defense. Love that pickup. We talked about the corner position. Like, there's options in this draft who can upgrade you there. Deshaun Wright had an incredible breakthrough season. He was one of the best stories on this team last year. I don't think he's going to 5 picks on Pro Bowl next year. It's just, that's reality in the NFL. That's not being negative in this case. So if he does, more power to him. I'm rooting for him, but you got to be realistic with this year. And that's what Ryan Poles and his brass have done. And they saw this defense as a weak link. They were bottom tier in total defense and scoring defense. And they saw, especially when you're facing a team like the 49ers, how many times you're chasing guys down because they're faster than you and fall behind in these games. They don't want to be playing comeback kids anymore. It was incredible to watch Caleb Williams lead them back. They want a defense that's getting off the field, and you're playing with a lead through these games instead of chasing from behind. So I like the fact that they're looking at this past season and the stretch run in particular and saying, that was fun, but we got to be so much better. And that's the conversation they're having up in Hallis Hall and clearly addressing that.
And that's okay. Yeah. That is part of the NFL business. The other part of the NFL business is the draft. So he is Zack Pearson. This is Chris Emma. If you have any questions, this is a live show. Put them in now. So we're going to take a quick break here in a little bit. But when we get back, we're going to talk about our NFL draft crushes. A lot of draft talk coming your way. But first, this break. Our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your baseball, football, any sports season. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strands to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. That's for you by the Wisconsin border. Stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff. Head to their website for only the best under the sun. That sounds cool. Including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Sunnyside Dispensary, only the best under the sun. Only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. You know that moment, the one you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or literally lose them in your car like I do all the time. I feel like I have a bunch of sunglasses in there or at the gas station 3 states away. I want to tell you about Shady Rays. It's changed the game with sunglasses. These sunglasses are made for real life. Seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, this is the key part. In your car, I'm telling you, even on day 1, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. My wife and I literally just ordered brand new pairs the other day for our vacations coming up. Baseball season's right around the corner, so make sure you get your Shady Rays. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. So go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGOSR. That's CHGOSR for 40% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGOSR for 40% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. All right, guys, we are fully in mock draft season. I love this time of year. I do. Like, eventually, I want to say, like, early April, like, I tune out on mock drafts a little bit, but then later on, like, it's all I do. Like, I'm full on draft coverage. I'm sure, I know you guys have mock drafts, so check out Zach's stuff at the Bear Report. Chris Emma on 104.3.
Hold on.
WBBM News Radio. So I wanted to talk about our draft crushes. Now, it's only March 19th, but it's never too early to start developing a list of your favorite players. You know why? I know scouts are doing it. I know executives are doing it. I know GMs are doing it. They're falling in love with players all over the league. There's certain traits you see in players, and you're getting to know these players off the field in meetings and interviews. You're hosting them at your home bases. So a lot is happening across the league right now. There's pro days going on. So let me give you a name right away. And if you've heard of me on this show before, you know who I'm going to say. But one of my favorite players in this draft is linebacker Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. I don't think the Bears should be scared whatsoever of taking him in the second round. I think they should actually hope and wish that he's there at number 57 because I think he could be their linebacker of the future. Instincts, athleticism, speed, tenacity, violence, a great mustache. I think
Right, crack.
Yes, yeah. He looks like a Chicago guy. Like to me, I think he'd be the perfect eventual replacement. Maybe it happens immediately for TJ Edwards, but he'd fit so nicely next to Devin Bush.
Loves football too. The times I've watched him, I mean, he's a gamer, creates takeaways. Probably the best linebacker in the country that was very, underrated in terms of the Heisman race. I think he kind of fits what Ryan Poles wants. And we heard what Ryan Poles, has said in the past about, wanting guys with culture, in their to fit their culture, loves football. Yeah, I would not be mad at that pick on day 2.
I'll give you my guy, and Zach's going to laugh at me because you know where this is going. It's the Notre Dame running back, and it's not that one. It's not Jeremiah Love. He's not going to be there. I'll get that out of anybody's head. It's the other one, and Darian Price has been the other Notre Dame back for his entire career, and he's worn that proudly. He, in this day and age in college football, where you can get the bag anywhere you want to go and get your stats, get your production, get whatever you want out of it, he did not choose that. He chose to stay at Notre Dame to be running back 1B alongside a Heisman candidate and Jeremiah Love and a dynamic back, and they shared the role. And it kind of cost Jeremiah Love the Heisman. It also cost Darian Price a chance at being that guy. But NFL scouts see through that. He's a guy who looks like he's going to be going on day 2, maybe even sneaking into day 1, but I don't see that. I love this guy for the Bears. And I see that because he's a dynamic player. He's a Ben Johnson player. This is a guy who is a weapon out of the backfield. Can lower the shoulder and run right through you. He's got the speed to break away from you. Look at the highlight reel. There's so many times where he's just blazing by everybody, going for a long touchdown, changing a game for Notre Dame. He's an excellent kickoff returner. Talk about changing a game. What he did in that USC game this year, like pulled away from the Trojans in that one because of that kickoff return touchdown. He did that time and time again in his career. He's a game changer. He's a character guy. When you talk about somebody who's that committed. Why did he not transfer? Because he loved Notre Dame. He loved being part of that program. He loved playing for Marcus Freeman. He wanted to be there. He could have had more money elsewhere. He's turned it down. He wanted to be part of that program. He's somebody you want to have on your side in the NFL. If he's there on day 2 for one of the Bears' 2 picks in the second round, sign me up.
Yeah, I like one of the guys I like day 2, Jalen Kilgore, the defensive back from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Played that star role on defense, can play safety, can play nickel, can cover tight ends, great size, very athletic. I think he was second at the combine in like athleticism score among his position. He's a guy, like we talked about, the secondary's got to improve. And if you want a defensive back that, is there day 2, maybe round 3, maybe round 2, he'd be a guy I'd look at. And I didn't watch a lot of South Carolina games, and I don't think they were very good from what I remember. But just watching him on tape, man, he looks really good. Can make plays on the ball, takeaways. It kind of fits what the Bears want.
So I have Bud Clark on my list from TCU. A ton of interceptions. Let me just go past like his past 4 years. He stayed at TCU. He hasn't left. So 4 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 5 interceptions. Like, but here's my hesitation on Bud Clark. He's an older player. So that's going to move him down my draft board a little bit. And there's a lot of older players in this draft. Bud Clark, obviously there's some injury history there. I think he's an exceptional playmaker. Again, a lot of plays on the ball, tackles for loss. I mean, the production is there, but for a guy who's becoming like one of my guys in this draft with Bud Clark, I'm going to be hesitant to take him, especially early on because of his age. It's just one of the harsh realities of the NFL draft process.
I'll hit you with another name, and it's probably going to be pick 25 or bust in this case, but Dylan Tiedemann out of Oregon, the safety. You got a need there alongside Kobe Bryant in this case, and you got a guy who had 106 tackles last year, 104 the year before that. He had 6 interceptions last season for the Ducks. He can play all over the place. He can play up in the box like a linebacker, make some plays, drop into coverage, take the football away. That is a Dennis Allen player. He's an ideal complement to somebody like Kobe Bryant. And it'd be nice to get your edge rusher, your defensive tackle there, whatever, and feel really good about addressing a need. But you still have a need at safety too. And it might be slightly more understated because of the addition of Kobe Bryant to that secondary. You feel really good about your defensive identity adding somebody like Dylan Tiedemann there.
Yeah,
I
I think with Tiedemann, the question becomes like, well, he reached pick 25. You run a 40 like that, you move up draft boards across the league.
You do, but again, it's how many teams. Safety is not that premium position. That's a player that could potentially fall. I'm with you. He's probably going to go in mid-first round. I think that's where he's been projected, but weird things happen in the draft. I could see him falling down to 25, and the Bears, will they jump it in? I don't know. He certainly would be a good fit.
Go on the safety route. I like the Toledo kid, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I saw somewhere he had 9 quote unquote peanut punches in his career, so can force takeaways. But it's the same thing. Will he be there? Will he be there at 25? Because it seems like after Caleb Downs, it's going to be between those two to go. But if he's there at 25, I think that's a pick I would look at. He can kind of fill that Jaquan Brisker role, play up in the box if needed. He's a little better in coverage, I think, than Brisker, more rangy. That's my guy. That's my prediction right now at 25 of the Bears, if he's there. I just think it makes a lot of sense. He kind of looks like a Dennis Allen type safety.
Who are your favorite pass rushers right now, March 19th? Like to me, my predicament is, well, who's really going to be available there at 25? Like, where do I have to draw the line? And maybe I need to do more research, talk to more people across the league, because I feel like everyone is trying to figure this out. Like, where is the tiers of pass rushers begin from the first to second tier? To me, that's my challenge at 25. But I'm just curious, do you guys have a favorite edge rusher out there that's caught your attention?
It's so weird because if you look at like different mock drafts from the experts, it's like after Ruben Bain and a couple of the other top guys, it's just a mix of guys that are just out of order for everyone. I like Mesidor from Miami. I know he's a little bit of an older prospect, but look, he got to learn from Jason Taylor. I think that's valuable. One of the best to ever do it. Zion Young is a guy that I'm interested in at 25 if he's there. But man, after that, it's just like it almost feels like kind of a quote unquote grab bag of edge rushers there.
You hit on the 2 guys I was going to mention. The other one is Cassius Howe. And a lot of people are knocking on him because he is undersized. This is what we do in the NFL draft is you start finding reasons not to like you guys as opposed to acknowledging the obvious, which is the production. This kid had 11.5 sacks last season in the SEC, 9.5 2 years ago. Like, the production's there. He was a terrific player. That entire A&M defense was dominant for a lot of last season. I think it's so easy to look for reasons not to draft a Cassius Howe when there's pretty obvious reasons why you should want to draft him. And he's going to be there at 25, and he might fall into the second round to give the Bears really something to think about. But I don't know. I don't get too caught up in these things that can scare you away. I think that's really a draft flaw in so many ways in these draft rooms around the league. Just you poke holes and poke holes and poke holes, and you just look past the obvious here. And sometimes you just got a really damn good ball player, and this kid looks like one of them.
So one of the players I'm really starting to like in the draft is Southeastern Louisiana defensive tackle Caleb Proctor. He is 6'2", 291. And you're probably thinking, well, that's not a very big defensive tackle. Well, we'll look at the track record of Dennis Allen on the interior. He wants speed. He wants someone to dent the pocket from the middle. He wants athletes in the middle, not these big space eaters. And then you listen to Contavious Street. What the Bears are trying to do schematically is play in the backfield a little bit more, not just eat gaps and wait for things and fill holes. They want to attack. They want to live in the backfield a little bit, not be overly aggressive, but still aggressive enough where you need speed and athleticism. So let me read you just a few sentences from Lance Zierlein's scouting report on NFL.com and Caleb Proctor. As an interior defender, Proctor is an elite athlete with rare playmaking range. He's an elusive rusher with an explosive first step and the ability to unlock openings with varied approaches and angles. He's also very undersized with a limited recourse once linemen have squared him up and put hands on him. He lacks anchor or contact balance to withstand power. Proctor needs to find a fit in a move-based defensive front where he can try to mismatch interior protection with his quickness and athletic gifts. Like, is this not like a younger version of Grady Jarrett?
Yes.
I mean, to the Chicago Bears. Like, I read that and I'm like, I'm thinking of Grady Jarrett.
Yeah, it sounded just like it. Just sounded like, and again, you got to hit on these draft picks. That's how you sustain success when you're in a cap situation like this. So, yeah, getting younger at the position, finding a guy like that, I'd be all for.
I thought you were giving me the school from Waterboy for a second there. Southeastern Louisiana, man, they would have dominated the Bourbon Bowl if they had Caleb Proctor going there. This is the time of year where I'm learning about prospects, so I'm intrigued. I like him. You sold me.
Last question for you, boys. Again, this is Zack Pearson from the Bear Report, Chris Emma from The Score and WBBM News Radio. If there's like one position that the Bears targeted and selected at number 25 and it like completely shocked you, floored you, like what position would that be?
Man, outside of like the obvious, quarterback and everything like that, I think wide receiver. I think maybe running back, wide receiver would be the two, just because I don't think, running back, you could get one later on. We've seen that in the NFL. Wide receiver would probably be the one. However, I did see a mock, Jordan Tyson, the Arizona State kid, being mocked to the Bears at 25. I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It would be very, very shocking to me.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that, Zach. I agree. Running back, wide receiver, probably. I just preface this with, like, nobody saw Luther Burden as a Bear last year. And weird things happen in the NFL draft. I mean, when Ryan Poles talks about best player available, like, he damn well means it. I mean, that was a prime example of that, where they said, this is a guy who's so far above everybody else on our board. We got to take him here. We'll just figure it out and let Ben Johnson work him into a role. And here they are a year later where DJ Moore becomes an expendable part because of how good they feel about Luther Burden. And they're in this cap crunch and they're able to make a move. And by the way, get a second-round pick back as part of the deal, which is what you used to get Luther Burden. So nothing would truly surprise me with the way that the Bears approach these drafts. And they do it with a prudent mind towards the future. So I don't see any wild cards at pick 25, but you never know.
So if tight end Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon was there, like if you're the Bears, like, I mean, Ben Johnson loves tight ends.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I mean, I'd imagine someone might be trying to trade up to get him then if he's there. I don't know. I think you probably pass on it. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if the Bears went that route.
Couldn't see it there, but I think they're going to go tight end in the mid and late rounds and continue to add that position. Ben Johnson does love tight ends. You're right about that. Like, he wants to continue to build out this offense in his vision. So there's going to be opportunities to do that. I don't see it at pick 25. I don't think I see it in the second round either, but there's going to be some options for sure.
I'll throw one at you guys really quick. The Alabama offensive tackle, Caden Proctor.
See, to me, like you brought up Braxton Jones earlier. We talked about Caleb Lomu a little bit in our previous podcast. To me, I don't know. Like, all the signs seem to point that the Bears, at least initially here in late March, are not interested in taking an offensive tackle in the first round. Is it just pass rusher and safety? There should be at least one of those outstanding safeties there available at number 25. Like, is that the direction they're taking? Like, is defensive tackle off the board because they've kind of solidified their trenches? I'm not saying it's off the board for later, but with pick number 25, they have Braxton Jones, Karan Amagaji, Theo Benedict, Jedrick Wills, and eventually Ozzie Trapillo is going to come back. That's 5 players in the mix, 4 at the start of training camp at left tackle. Maybe someone falls to them and who's in their top part of their board, but I don't know. It seems to me like the Bears offseason moves, they're at least suggesting that it's pass rusher or safety at number 25.
Remember signing Jason Peters off the streets a couple years ago? They just had nothing in tackle. Now you're sitting here talking about all the options. I disagree with you, though. I think tackle is in play at 25. I don't think it's an obvious spot. But, again, it goes back to best player available. And if there's somebody that they got graded that much higher over everybody else, even as talented as the first round can be, like, you can get out of one of those contracts with Wills or Jones, whatever you like. They become depth pieces at the very worst. Ozzie Trapillo, I think in a perfect world, is your tackle of the future, but he's not playing this season. Wills and Jones have 1-year trials, and ideally one of them takes that starting spot, runs with it this season, and is either back as a long-term option or signs elsewhere, and Trapillo's your guy. But, man, I don't discount the idea if they got a tackle option who's sitting there on the board and they love this guy, they might jump on that and just feel really good about their depth of that position.
It just seems to me, I know what you're saying, Chris, but maybe they're just more optimistic about Ozzie Trapillo's recovery than the rest of us are from the outside looking in. They have the medicals, they have the the film on his knee, as you could say, but maybe that's what it is. I did have like one more player that's becoming a draft crush of mine. It is safety AJ Halsey. I love the violence. I love the tenacity. He's got good range. There's some ball production there as well. I just think safety is definitely in play for the Bears day 1, day 2, at the very latest day 3.
Has to be
early day 3. Sorry. Yeah,
it has to be. Yeah.
You can't wait to round 5.
No.
All right. Any other players? Are we good to go?
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, boys, awesome. Who needs Adam Hoge, right?
He's enjoying the really nice weather out there in Hawaii.
Actually, right?
He was complaining that it wasn't going to be that nice, so I'll have to check out.
Like 75, 80, and maybe partly cloudy or something like that.
Beautiful weekend here in Chicago. What more do you want in life?
Yeah, 70. This is our second attempt at spring here in Chicago. Hopefully it stays, but thank you so much, guys. Zack Pearson from the Bear Report, Chris Emma from, I almost did it again, from 104.3 The Score, WBBM News Radio. Follow them on social media. You know who they are if you follow the Bears, but can't thank you enough. We will be back on Tuesday, Hoge Jahns, with Dion Miller this time, filling in for Adam Hoge. But thank you, guys. Go to allchgo.com to become a subscriber. But that's it. We will see everybody later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button one last time. And that's it. Thanks, boys.
We all silly like the mayor.